Well, would you Loki what time it is? No. It's time for the after credits scene. Well, it's about time. What's up, guys? Super glad to be with you. It's been a couple of weeks. Since we've been gone, we've uploaded a few videos that you guys can check out. They're linked in the description below. But as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you can turn on the notifications and find out when we drop new content. Super glad to be back with you guys for the premiere of episode 1 of Loki. There's a whole lot to get to, and as I was trying to get ready for this review, I think it's only fitting, given the theme of the show, that we just kind of go out of our way to do things out of order here. Really is going to help understand the episode. Things were given to us in a lot of different ways, and we got a lot of information after we saw it. And so I kind of want to start with the big pieces in the middle and work our way to the edges if we can. The middle of this episode has a whole lot of introduction to Loki's story and how he gets to be a part of the TVA. Now, what I thought was really cool is we got a lot of bonus scenes from a lot of other Marvel properties, particularly all the Thor movies and Avengers, as Mobius is trying to explain to Loki who he is and why he's there. It's an interesting little mini psychology episode, or a mini therapy session, if you will. And we get this Thor 1.5, where you get to see what happened between the end of Avengers and the beginning of Thor: The Dark World, where Loki gets taken captive. The series starts off with the middle of Endgame, where we see Loki taking the Tesseract after the Avengers mess up the time heist portion of 2012. I think it's really interesting that when Loki arrives at the TVA, particularly in the courtroom, there's a scene where he says the Avengers were there traveling through time, doing things. He's not the reason that he's at the TVA or the reason he stole the Tesseract. It's because of the Avengers. Loki knew that something was going on, that there were other Avengers there, but he didn't really know why. And then Mobius explains to him, back in what we see as the time theater, that was all supposed to happen. I think it's really another confirmation that the things that Doctor Strange saw in the Time Stone during Infinity War, when he goes through his 14 million different versions of reality and he gets it down to that one version, that this was what was supposed to happen. I also think it's a little clever little nod to the writing of these stories to say, no, the things you've seen have already happened. The things that Loki is experiencing now, being the Loki from 2012, are supposed to happen, and there's a particular way they're supposed to happen. So for a brief moment here, don't know if it's going to hold up through the entire series, but for this brief moment, we get to be in Mobius's shoes and be a member of the timeline. We get to be a member of the TVA here, where we know who Loki is. We've seen his whole lifespan, just like he got to see it with the film reel. And we know what's supposed to happen and how it's supposed to happen. But then we get this really cool teaser here, and we get all this extra information because now we're outside of time. So getting to see things like Loki as DB Cooper, which was a fantastic little side story that they threw in, and I did not expect it in the first episode. It was really, really cool. I love how they did that, and just adding Loki and the backstory of him losing a bet to Thor as some kind of springboard into Loki becoming DB Cooper, and then using the Bifrost to escape, thereby proving this DB Cooper theory that nobody has found him and that the money's gone missing and so on and so forth. It was a really amazing thing. I think all the bouncing around was handled really well with the timeline. They gave you times when you needed them, and then they explained things very easily. Having said that, I want to give a really just a tip of the cap here to Marvel and their explanations of very complicated things. When Miss Minutes pops on the screen and we get introduced to her for the first time, all I could say was, thanks, Marvel, for this explanation, this simple explanation of the multiverse and the timeline. We'll explore that a little more in our Easter egg video, so check that out. But it was a very, very simple explanation and a very, very quick explanation of a lot of the craziness that we've come to expect and that we know is behind the scenes through shows like WandaVision and other things that are going on in Endgame, but we haven't really gotten confirmation of it outside of explanations or throwaway jokes in movies like Spider-Man Far From Home, where Spider-Man talks about the multiverse or different realities. It wasn't something that was really gone into in a lot of depth. They didn't delve into those ideas. But here you get this quick little commercial in cartoon form that says, here's what the timeline's about, here's what the TVA is about, and here's where it all happened. And you get that multiverse explanation as well. So like I said, we're gonna dive into that in an Easter egg video, but I loved that little scene, and I just couldn't help but laugh at it and actually just give a real hearty thank you, Marvel, for doing it so simply and making it a whole lot of fun. Along with that, the intro, compared to things like Falcon and the Winter Soldier or WandaVision, was a little creepy and eerie. I'm curious as to whether or not that particular intro is going to be the same every week or if they're going to change it up, because this one looked very old school and had a lot of like runic feels to it. So maybe the intro and the logo is going to change over time and give us some kind of indication of what each episode is about, or it's going to give us some indication of how time is progressing or where he's at. There's no telling. We're not going to be able to know that obviously until next week. But if you watch through the end credits, which had a ton of Easter eggs as well, the Loki logo at the end of that was the same as the Loki logo at the beginning of the series. And so if they're going to change it, they're going to have to do it in a couple places. And I'm really interested to see, given how they're messing with time, if that's something that's going to pop up in a lot of different ways and how they're going to play with time and how the viewer is going to fit into that. Because in our little mini therapy session here, we're kind of outside of it and watching this whole thing, knowing the same things that Mobius knows. Owen Wilson played that character fantastically. I can't wait to see him as a detective. And in that role, like, we got a little bit of a scene when he's in France at the crime scene, but then switching into his kind of happy, giddy personality with that tinge of seriousness as he's interviewing Loki, getting down to some real specific things, but also kind of keeping a real lighthearted spirit. I think if there's any kind of buddy cop drama to this show, that's going to make for some interesting interaction. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, but there's going to be some tension there. You can already see how this is going to be bad. And then the reveal there at the end of the episode where Mobius says, we're chasing you, we're hunting you. And they already set up some of that at the beginning with Mobius asking Loki questions about why he wants to be a villain and how he is a villain. And you could almost frame that whole thing as rehabilitation of a villain, because the Loki we know and the Loki we love that becomes a hero by the end of Endgame is not the one that starts out at the beginning of Thor. And it's taken us a decade to see his transformation. And again, hats off to Marvel for creating a scene where you get that entire story and you get that entire transformation with some clips and some conversation in about 20 minutes right in the middle of this episode. So how they're going to play that out and this end goal of Loki flipping around and escaping the TVA and becoming villainous or using it to his own ends or causing trouble and creating this multiverse issue is going to be really interesting to see. Even if it is some kind of loop that keeps happening, that where he's just constantly chasing himself outside of time because he has messed it up and he can't go back right now to the 2012 timeline, and there's no telling if he ever will. So how this works and how it's going to function and what it means for the future of the MCU, I can already tell the things that Kevin Feige has said in interviews about this show is really going to twist some things and have some ramifications for the larger MCU. is going to be really exciting to see. It's going to be a lot of fun to follow along with. As we moved along, we got not very much world building in this episode, but all the little things that you see at the beginning. I took notes and things like the time grenade at the beginning, which you find out is a reset device. The device that Mobius has that rewinds Loki, you find out is a time twister. You find those things out later. You don't find them out in the moment, as some storytelling devices would do, some plot devices would do. In most stories, you get those in different bites, and so you're having to fit those things together. I thought that was a nice touch to add to the mystery of the show without keeping you so in the dark that you didn't understand what was going on. They made it very, very simple. And I think that played right into his rehabilitation scene, where he goes back and forth and Mobius is really asking him, okay, so why do you not like freedom? Why do you not like control? You know, you're trying to be this villain that tells people that freedom is a lie. Freedom is an illusion. You're meant to be ruled. You're meant to be controlled. But then Loki, in the same situation with this collar on his neck, in a jumpsuit, caged, as Mobius says, with his little time twister, he says, back in your cage. Loki, who claims himself a god, does not want to abide by his own moral compass or his own set of rules, which is, now that the roles are reversed and you are in the cage and you do not have your freedom, you don't like it, but this is your whole MO, this is your whole thesis, your whole banner is to say that people need to be ruled and subjugated, but you're unwilling to do the same thing. And rather than forcing him into that, Mobius gets this opportunity with him when Loki gets back into the room and sees his whole timeline and sees his whole story, which, little side note here, there's a little confirmation that Loki's death, even though it's been a mystery up until did Loki really die? Was it an illusion? Did Thanos really kill him? If we believe the Time Lords and we believe all of their things, his tape ran out at the end of Endgame, in the end of the death scene that we see in Infinity War. And if that's really what happened, then Loki's dead in our MCU timeline. But now that he's out of that timeline, what's going to happen here? Does that mean that there are things that are unchangeable? Which was my first question. Does it mean that Loki can change those things? Maybe he can, maybe he can't. We'll have to wait and see. But all those theories, years ago about whether or not Loki was really alive or really dead, I kind of think they were wrapped up when the tape ran out on the TVA's file on Loki. And so they know how that file ended. They know how that timeline ended, but now we're in a new timeline. We've established that we're outside of time, which was very interesting and a little melty on your brain to think about. The example of that, which I thought was hilarious, was Loki running away from Mobius and getting out of the room and ending up in a cubicle with another guy and finding the junk drawer full of Infinity Stones and somehow realizing that, the Time Lords must be a real thing. They must be powerful if Infinity Stones are used as paperweights. I thought it was cool that this is the first time in the entire MCU that anybody has touched the Time Stone. Anytime you see the Time Stone, it's in between people's fingers. You can't touch it. The theory being it's outside of time. But the TVA is outside of time, so surprise, surprise, you can touch the Time Stone. And it was hilarious to me that something that was such a big deal for so many years in the MCU is now reduced to a paperweight and a throwaway item in a junk drawer somewhere. The fact that Marvel can still poke fun at themselves and use it to further a story and even make callbacks to other little ideas is not just a testament to their story writing, but how amazing and wonderful this universe and this world of stories is. And it just makes it that much more fun to see these things and go, oh, that's a really cool little thing. It's why people make review videos, and it's why we make Easter egg videos, and it's why you guys are watching it right now. I'd love to know what you guys think about it. There's so much going on in this episode. Our Easter egg video is going to be packed with content, and I think all the Easter egg videos are going to be packed with content. Our prediction videos are going to be nuts because I don't think there's any way you're going to be able to predict a lot of stuff in this show. And if anybody can wrap their mind around any of the twistiness that's going to go on here, more power to them. But I'm a little worried about doing my prediction video next week because I'm not really sure where to go with it. Tell us what you guys think. Tell us what you're excited about. Tell us what you spotted and what you think is interesting about the show. Thanks for watching, guys. It's been awesome to be back in front of the camera with you guys, to be talking about Marvel shows. Even got my own Time Variance Authority hoodie in preparation for the show. If you want some of that stuff, check out the link in the description here for some logos and some artwork and some t-shirts like this one that you can buy on Redbubble. Check out our other videos, our prediction videos and our review videos, Easter egg videos on WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which you can find on our channel. And we'll see you guys next time.